Okay, it's the Tragedy+Time live stream show. We're back again here with Vanessa. I'm Tyson, and today we're going to be talking about monogamy and non-monogamy, which are just like two really big words that I think are kind of daunting for some people.
Phenomena.
Yeah, phenomena. Yeah, like it sounds like a piece of wood, right? Yeah,
Monogamy. Do 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 do.
exactly.
Monogamy. Do do. Non-monogamy. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like screaming monogamy sometimes, like in that kind of like guttural, because there are times when, at least in my past, where like it has not been the easiest or most pleasant thing in the world. And I don't really have a whole lot of experience with non-monogamy yet, but I'm definitely working, trying
to
it
get
out,
there.
trying to get there.
Trying to find it.
So I think that most people already have a decent understanding about what monogamy is, but let's kind of cover like a base definition of what non-monogamy is. Like, how would you define it?
I think it's a definition that is very personal to different individual people, right? So it's not, you can't just blanket non-monogamy completely, right? But I guess the simple form is you are not committed to only one person, sexually, intimately. There are others.
Yeah, now definitely, like you hit on a point right off the bat that I've already kind of encountered with any of my like interactions in this realm, and it's different for everybody. It does most often seem to have a sexual component, but there are some people that I've talked to where they have even the emotional components.
Yeah, like emotional intimacy. Have them separately.
Yeah, have them separately or have some sort of like hierarchy to like how they behave. And within non-monogamy, there's a number of different like, subclasses. And I think, the buzz term that, people will use is ethical non-monogamy and what that means versus like, what's a swinger and what's polyamory and and those sort of things. So
and then some people define poly as non-monogamy.
Right.
Where they're just like, I am poly, and it's like, no, you just want to fuck a bunch of people. Like, that's fine.
Exactly.
But you don't love those people, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So we really get into the root words of like how these words are built, right? Mm-hmm. So like non-monogamy, like just non means like not, and monogamy, the mono is one. So like it just means not one committed thing. It means more than one.
Right.
Whereas polyamory, like the amory that relates to the word love.
Amor.
And poly means many. So it means that you actually are experiencing, levels of intimacy and love, other than just different physical relationships, and maybe, and I think that it's kind of an interesting detail. Like I was trying to explain like my current approach with non-monogamy to somebody. And I said, like, I'm not monogamous, and I'm not really in any specific like actual relationship. I'm like technically single, for the most part. But that doesn't. but just because I'm non-monogamous doesn't make
single person. Okay?
Exactly. It doesn't make me into like I'm a man whore or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna fuck whoever comes along, because like, as much as having sex with various people can be satisfying and like help you figure things out, the real satisfying part is having a more meaningful connection with someone.
Sure.
Yeah. And whether that's, the different levels of love or, what have you. I mean, I don't know. It does mean something different to everybody else.
Yeah.
Now, you've had experience with non-monogamy. Mm-hmm. Well, and I assume monogamy. I think everybody has experience with monogamy, because I think it's how we all start out, right?
Well, it's what we're taught is supposed to be the way. Well, get married, get that house, get them kids out, be with each other forever.
Yeah. Maybe Jackie. Maybe. I don't know.
Jackie.
Now.
No, I totally wish that. Okay, so I'm a super sexual person, but I'm very very selective. Like I have a lot of friends that are, they're just like, fuck all these people, and I'm like, sometimes I wish I could do that, but that's not my bag. It's not my style, and I'm not judging you, but it's not my thing.
I think
that freaks me out. That sounds like a lot of work to me.
Yes, it can be a lot of work because I mean, if you think about like the amount of work that you would have to put into a positive monogamous relationship, which I mean, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Just do the math, multiply that out. I mean, for the depth of your relationship, if you're going to have multiple, it's going to be that much more work.
Yeah. Some people don't understand that part.
Yeah, and I do think that that's a lot of the reason why even like if you're not indoctrinated into being monogamous, which let's face it, the vast majority of us are indoctrinated into monogamy and our fledgling relationships, like when we're first figuring things out, like our high school boyfriends or girlfriends, and those sort of relationships, they're typically monogamous, and you don't see a lot of non-monogamy happening
with the youth,
with the youth, with adolescents, or like yeah.
No, it starts when kids are little. Like I remember my little sister like got married in preschool. Like, oh, I'm marrying Justin. I forget who it was. It was Justin something something. And I'm going to marry Justin something something. And it was all about marrying this boy. And now, I mean, she's never been married. And she's not interested really. But like as a little kid, like that was, I mean, it was cute. It was encouraged. It was, laughed at, and like everybody knew that relationship was not going to last.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was adorable, and it wasn't something that we then like sat them down and went like, now if you wanna also marry Susie, you can do that. Like that was not a topic up on the table of conversation at all.
That brings up a good point there. There does seem to be, in some cases, overlap between non-monogamy and people who are bisexual, or maybe they're just not strictly straight. There's all the different flavors of sexuality, but those who identify as like not straight, it does seem
that's me,
right? So is that like a factor because you feel attraction towards more than one different type of person, by gender and what have you, that you want to experience those things separately?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to get the full definition of what my sexuality is I'm a what did I say? I'm a polyamorous, pansexual, femme-presenting butch.
All right.
You got it? Got it.
And what does all that mean?
It means, so I'm in a committed relationship and have been for over 13 years, honey? He can't hear me. He's deaf.
That's how you know it's been at least 13 years.
That's how you know it's been at least 13 years.
I tell you, it's like, you get into the teens and like, just
yeah. It changes which year it is. It depends on which side I'm on, apparently. Yeah, that's how that goes. So we've been together for a really long time, and but I am attracted to people of the same sex, of the opposite sex. I am attracted to trans people. I am attracted to non-binary people. That's where the pan comes in.
Right.
I haven't been with the pan rainbow, but that doesn't mean that I'm not up for it.
Right.
My thing is more, I think there's also another, it's a sapiosexual.
Yeah, which I believe has to do with like
Mental, like
yeah,
you gotta have
like
like
a
a
mental
connection.
attraction.
Yeah, there has to be like a mental, yeah. Mine is basically like a good, powerful energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Like when that happens, I feel like if you encounter that sort of thing, that there's something that's meant to happen, or meant to be learned, or meant to be experienced when you experience that sort of mutual like energy, right? And so monogamy doesn't make sense to, it doesn't make sense to be monogamous in your life if that, when those sort of things happen, because when you're non-monogamous, then you're free to do those things. Like I said, I'm not out like, I want to go fuck everybody. Like I'm a pansexual, like polyamorous person. Doesn't mean that I'm just out fucking everybody all the time. I'm not at all. I haven't.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that the other detail here that we haven't really touched on is, and I think what is a stumbling point for a lot of people is jealousy. Right?
Yeah.
Like, where do you spend your time? How is your time being spent? How do you manage not having jealousy? And like for instance, there's shall I say popular online dating thing, like, so okay Cupid, there's a number of questions in their like battery of like how to match people together, and one of the questions that came up that I always like, I blinked when I read it because I couldn't believe that someone would answer it the other way, was, do you think that jealousy is healthy for a relationship? And I personally say no. And I was like, I was astounded to find people that would say yes. And I was like, what? And I couldn't really wrap my mind around it until I looked at it a little bit differently. And I think maybe in those instances, maybe they did really mean true jealousy. But what I really think that they're probably getting at is this, not the sense of like jealousy so much, but eliminating avenues for complacency. Because like I feel like sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when like say you get in a marriage and you're indoctrinated into like the certain institutions of what it's supposed to be, like the death do us part, it can be a little easier to be like, well, I'm never going to be splitting from this person, and you can
right
kind of rest on your laurels, or like, but when you know that,
I put my dirty feet up on the table.
Exactly, and when you know that your partner like is free, just like you are free to experience things, as long as it's agreed upon and that there's honesty and like honest conversations going on. Like, I think that avenue towards complacency is a little bit more limited because you want to work more on a positive side of keeping their attention, if you want to keep their attention.
Yeah, keeping it fresh, keeping it real.
So this is an interesting thing.
Jealousy is a natural feeling.
It's a natural feeling, but just because it's a natural feeling doesn't mean it's a positive one.
Right. Anger is a natural feeling too. It's not always beneficial.
And what we do
jealousy
with it,
destroyed my part of my non-monogamous part of the relationship that I had. Yeah.
Well, do you want to share more about that? Or?
Sure. Like there's always going to be jealousy if another person is sort of sharing your partner, and not always. So I had a girlfriend for 5 years until just last year. And it was a long distance relationship, and she also had a boyfriend that she lived with. Then they broke up, and then she was single again. So she was, she was dating around again, which the whole time I was totally fine with, didn't have a problem with, not even, really bothered by it. Because we still had a very strong relationship, because we were still working it out. It was super fun. We would still see each other all the time and pay attention to each other and things like that. And then she got a new girlfriend and the pandemic hit and everything fucking went to shit. And being wrapped up in a new relationship, and then also a pandemic, which kept us completely apart because no travel, no seeing each other, no, only Zoom contact. It's great for the relationship, just great.
Yeah, there's only so much like show and tell you can do. Like,
yeah, and I was not interested in that really at all. Like, because I'm stuck in my home with my partner and my kids. Like it's just not gonna.
Yeah, you can't just be like, hey, you're gonna hear some stuff. There's gonna be some
or hey,
language.
everybody, how about you go for a walk or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Mommy needs a little time with her girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Don't ask why this room is so well lit.
Yeah. So I got super jealous because I wasn't getting the attention that I felt I needed. Right. Yeah. And it just, I don't normally feel that. Like, I'm not a jealous person generally. So it was bananas for me, number one. And it just sucked. And it just like, the more jealous I became, the less she wanted to interact with me, which granted, that's how that works, right?
That is exactly how that works. Yeah.
And so it just became this awful cycle. And a big part of it was just not being able to see one another. And also, I had never met the girlfriend. So that was a huge thing. So here's this like mystery person over here that she's like protecting and with and falling in love with that I've never met before.
Right. And which is different for different non-monogamous relationships. Sometimes you want to meet the other person and know everything.
It depends on the individual.
Other times that's not necessary.
Right.
So it is kind of different for a number of different people, or at least that's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
It does kind of bring up something that I think is interesting, and it does contribute to like why I am trying non-monogamy now, like to bring everybody up to speed. Like, I tried monogamy for a long time. Like, I was married, and then I had another long-term relationship, which I guess it would be arguable that it was monogamous all the time because like there was like some significant stepping out that was done. Like,
on both your parts, or like together? Or
how about I put it this way? Like, in my marriage, like I stepped out at the end. So there was some definitely unethical non-monogamy that was done, and on my part. And then
you cheated on your wife.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
Yes, I cheated on my wife.
See, there's a difference, folks, between non-monogamy and cheating on someone.
Exactly.
Cheating is when you don't talk about it with your partner, and you just don't talk about it with your partner.
Yep.
That's betrayal.
Yes, that is betrayal, everybody. Those are key words for today. And
just
I tell you,
be clear,
makes you feel really good when you're the one perpetrating it on others too, because like she's like, oh, I'm a piece of shit. But no, in that particular case with my marriage, like once it happened, I kind of sat myself down and looked in the mirror. I was like, oh, this is going to happen again.
Right.
We need to end this. And then, the beginning of the end came very rapidly after, but like the divorce proceedings were difficult, obviously. But then in my next relationship, there was a significant amount of stepping out that was long-term. And,
so you had an affair?
No, not me. So so in that other one, in the next relationship that I had, we were trying to be monogamous, and Like, it's like I
I
cheated
love
the once.
trying to be monogamous.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we were trying to be monogamous, just taking
yeah,
it out for a test drive. Like,
yeah.
mhm.
And you know, I don't want to throw the other person under the bus, because like I wasn't really ready for another relationship. I needed to do a lot of work on myself and that sort of thing. But uh, that still doesn't mean that it's all right for somebody to cheat on you. You
No,
know?
it sucks. It's one of the worst feelings in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it finding out that your partner has cheated on you is up there with
Yes.
painful. Like, it's one thing if it's just like somebody you're dating, but it's a whole other thing when it's somebody that you really love. Yeah, and it's complicated and big, and it's an owie. It's a big owie.
It sucks. And
Yeah.
and during that, my second like major, committed relationship, because I had stepped out on my wife, I really was trying to sell myself on this idea that, like, well, people cheat for a reason, and it must be my fault that she's looking elsewhere. And like we would continuously take her back, and we didn't really do the work we needed to. And
Right.
we had opportunities to do certain things in therapy that we kind of half did and didn't take to full fruition. But like the fact of the matter is like, she wasn't ready for the type of relationship that I think I was looking for, and I wasn't ready for the type of relationship that I was looking for either.
Yeah.
It's hard to have a human relationship when you are not even accustomed to feeling all of the full range of human emotions. I needed to do some growing, and but that still doesn't make things all right. But yeah, to answer Jackie's question, is that the girl that the Taco Bell jokes are about? And that is true. We're stand-up comics. We joke about the things that happen in our life, and yes, that's the basis of those jokes. And yes, it is painful to suffer that kind of betrayal. So now,
but I think most people within their span will experience either cheating on, being cheated on, or both.
Exactly. I agree with you, and I think
because
a lot of times
humans are biologically, they're not really meant to be. I mean, like, if you're gonna be on the keto diet, you also have to take into consideration all the other stuff that goes along with that lifestyle, which is clan life and sharing this, that, and everything.
Yeah,
exactly. You're sharing responsibilities, you're sharing beds, you're sharing, you're nursing other people's children. Like, it's a different lifestyle. But there are people who totally take all that on. Like, I know people who have like their poly condo, setup going on, where they've got like one condo over here and that's this couple, and then another condo over here is this couple, and then you got like the girlfriend down the hall who's so-and-so's girlfriend, but not this guy's girlfriend. And then they've got other girlfriends. And there's like, I'm like, I need a fucking pie chart, or how do you figure this out? Like, how do you, and you ask them too, just like, how do you like organize all of it? And they're just like, Google calendars.
Yeah. It's like, I've heard that same answer.
Yeah. Color code your lovers.
Right. But I mean, like, one of the other reasons why I'm trying out non-monogamy is the aspect of, I have ADHD. So I'm neurodiverse, and part of being neurodiverse for me, and part of like having ADHD, is I have a symptom that it's kind of a collection of symptoms, and it's called rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So I feel I perceive rejection very, very strongly. And there are times when the perception is very accurate, and there are times when the perception is jacked way the fuck up. And
Sure.
and
I think a lot of people have that without realizing it.
and like bringing it back to like a level of like, all right, what is my true reality here? But what eventually happens with this particular symptom is you do a certain amount of masking. But I dealt with this thing for such a long time without getting really the help that I needed, that I developed a number of different, bad habits mentally. Like there are persistent, unwanted thoughts in my head that tell me like you're a piece of shit, and like like you're never gonna be able to like fulfill someone. You're never gonna be able to be their everything, or that sort
Well, I
of
think
thing.
that's it right there. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair. That's not
Exactly.
fair for anybody to have to hold down. Like you cannot be some one person's everything. That's a big order to fill and not fair for anybody.
Now, and I agree with you there, but I think that this is something that when you compare and contrast, or you talk with like some people who are really true blue into monogamy, and they think that non-monogamy is immoral, wrong, and one of the things that when I speak to people who are in that realm,
Are some of the biggest liars I've ever met in my fucking life. Seriously, seriously, some of the biggest fucking monogamists that I know are some of the worst cheaters. They fuck everybody, and they're just like, I'm monogamous. I will always be monogamous. That is the way it is for me. This is how it is. I'm better than you, you dirty slut whore. They're just lying about it, and meanwhile, they're fucking all kinds of people. Like,
well, you heard it here first. I mean, like, we're just going to cut straight to the end there. But I was going to say that, like, for some of those people, they will say that the value of their relationship is knowing that they are the other person's everything. And like, honestly, I have a number of problems with that.
Yeah.
Like on a bunch of different levels. But for me personally, like, I can't handle that kind of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
Because if I feel like I dropped the ball for somebody else, I know that the negative thoughts that are in my mind will be merciless to me about dropping the ball with someone I loved. And what will begin to happen is like the more I perceive that I dropped the ball, the more I step away, because the opportunity for pain and the opportunity for like getting into cyclical negative thoughts of where I like torment myself, it's not necessarily safe for me to put myself in that particular situation. So one of the things, and maybe I have a naivete about this with non-monogamy, but like I think I have this idea or this attitude that like if you're doing non-monogamy, you already kind of know that nobody can be anybody's everything, and that there is an innate aspect of you are who you are, and you should be who you're going to be, and you need to, like Vanessa needs to love Vanessa, and like Tyson needs to love Tyson, and like the people we are with that are going to love us for us, but if they need this one little idiosyncratic aspect that we don't really have, it's okay for them to go seek it elsewhere, and like we can encourage them to do that, and celebrate them, and like be a cheerleader for their fulfillment, because we can.
My man
hopefully
does not have boobs. He's never gonna have boobs.
Yeah, I mean,
he's never gonna have a big booty. He's never,
I mean, and as lovely as of a man as he is, like
he's a wonderful man. He's
a wonderful man.
He is the best man that I know.
Every interaction I've had with him, I was just like,
he's laughing. He thinks that's funny.
He's so dreamy.
He's so dreamy. He is.
Nice.
He's so fucking nice. He gives the best hugs on the planet.
And when he sees you, he smiles.
Yeah.
Like most of the
Aw.
time when I see him, he's like, "Hi,
Yeah.
Tyson," and I'm just like, "Wow, look, somebody smiled at me. That's cool."
Yeah.
Like, but yes, he lacks tits, and like
He does not have titties.
or or my personal favorite part was the vagina. Like I think the vagina is pretty nice. I'm a
on
big
board.
fan, big
I'm
fan of
a
vagina.
big fan too. I really am. I
Really
didn't
like.
know. Like I knew I would be, and I just never really got to know one until, my adult life. And then when I really got to know one, I was like, hey, great.
That there might be something there. There might be something.
Everybody has a crush on my man. Everybody.
Yeah, I'm all right with having a crush.
Everybody. I know I am. And see, there's a thing right there. I know that everybody has a crush on Brian because he's the. What are you saying? Stop. Oh, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being talked about.
Oh, that's
in
all right.
good ways at all. He gets embarrassed. He turns red, like his ears, like it's like a temperature, like you can see the red go.
Oh, the difficulty of being like in a serious
being
relationship
amazing.
with a humble
No, he's
man.
like super shitty in a bunch of other ways too, but like nobody ever sees that. Like his shit does not stink. That's a big problem for me. No.
But I do think that there is a kind of a lot that goes on, like in the aspect of knowing that you can't be somebody's everything, and that you can be all right with it.
Right. And I think that has like a lot to do with one, confidence. Like obviously you need to have some sort of confidence in yourself, which granted a lot of people don't. I mean, humans are the most, we're so insecure. I don't know anybody who isn't. I don't know anybody who isn't just super, super fucking insecure. I don't care if like a lot of people think that I'm like super confident and yeah, I'm loud. I'm not.
I mean, being obnoxious does not mean that you are confident.
Does not mean confident. It looks confident, but it's not. Let me tell you, when I go home, it's all the yeah.
Now, here's a line that was told to me, and I just really attached to, and it's something that when I compare and contrast monogamy with non-monogamy, I think that this is pretty important. And that is, love is not a zero-sum game. And like, what that means is like at one point in time in my life, I felt that like, there's soulmates. Oh my God. I'm going to find my soulmate and she's going to love me and I'm going to love her. And
I got that bullshit from my mom. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. And like, that's going to be the person for me and I'm going to be the person for her. And then like, we're in love and we have this love for each other.
It spans time and space.
Exactly. But then also what came with it was this idea that like, well, if they show affection to somebody else, that is somehow I'm losing it. And that is not the way that actual human affection works.
It can, though.
Well, I mean, like if you're my mom, yeah, but I mean, like, no.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. No, when I fell in love with my girlfriend, I did not lose one iota of love for Brian. If anything, it was more intensified because of the understanding and just everything that we went through. And we went through a lot. Like there was a lot of talking that happened. There was a lot of, like getting through stuff, like figuring it out. Cause obviously it was brand new to us and new to everybody.
Well, I mean, and also the decision to be non-monogamous and introduce it to like your friend's family, like to just put it into a relationship that starts off monogamous and then to expand it out and like to deal with like, that you're going to get different feedback. So like,
which we never told any of Brian's family. So
let's hope that they're not watching. Yeah.
What's up, guys? We can talk about it another time. But like, it was funny because
so whoops, it's all vaginas over here.
it's all. Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm slipping. We told our kids pretty quickly, and their reaction, I think, was the best. Like they were, because I'm all about honesty. I don't, I can't lie to save my fucking life. I cannot. I'm a big mouth. I can't lie. I try sometimes, and that just never works out for me. So I just steer clear of it in the first place. But we sat the kids down, and all four boys at the kitchen table. We sat down with them to tell them that I had a girlfriend. And we're like, okay, we have something to tell you. And they're all very tense and very alert.
Mm-hmm.
And then we say, well, I've got a girlfriend. And the oldest one looks at me and he's like, nice, Vanessa. And then it was like, oh, they were just so relieved. One thought we were breaking up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing they thought was that we were pregnant, which they were all kind of excited for. That would not have been exciting for us, I don't think. I mean,
Yeah.
We would have four boys. We're good. Because we would have
probably would have had twins, like
right, exactly. We would have had twin boys or some shit. They would be 6'11" and just and they were just cool with it right away. Like that wasn't a problem. We had always been pretty open about relationships and stuff anyway, and different kinds of relationships and different people and different relationships. And so, all their parents are bi, which is funny. So there's 4 different people that are parents to the 4 different boys,
mm-hmm.
and we're all bi.
Which is like, that's a really interesting aspect in a very positive way, that each child has 4 parents that care want
each
to help.
Child has 2 parents.
Well, each parent has 2. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But
plus, I'm like the third tag along.
But like that's nice though, in the aspect of like it's another person in that child's life who can like show them a various different way to look at that, but also still want to encourage. Like ideally, when people inevitably split up, if it happens, like that like whoever comes in next, that there's something healthy there and it can be mutually supported.
Yeah,
it's not always the case, but I mean, ideally in an ideal situation. But so like with everyone being bi, I mean, I suppose like they're introduced to like the ideas of sexuality differently. Like I mean, when you guys like I was taught to be homophobic.
Yeah, that's
and
not.
It was.
Oh, sorry. Oh God, edit that out.
Yeah, we'll get it in post. But like like I was taught to be homophobic.
That's fucked up.
And it took
some deconditioning.
But I mean, what realistically happened is like it took seeing some trauma, or like or perceiving the loss of a relationship with someone, and be like, oh, this doesn't make sense to me. Like I don't need to do this, and like it was, correcting it and deprogramming it. It wasn't so much that I was actively taught it by my parents. My parents never said like, to be
mean to people,
to be mean to them,
but
they
right
were definitely looked at as like, well, that's not
natural.
It's not natural. It's
right.
And then I was raised very Lutheran, and
sure, and I had
certain things in the Bible.
Right. We weren't Lutheran, but my parents were raised Lutheran. So they have that. Like I remember distinctly having a conversation with my mom in the car where she was like, well, I have gay friends, but I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Like my mom was the biggest surprise to me, I guess. And I don't know why, because I just told you that story. And then we just didn't talk about gay people ever again, I guess. I don't know why. But I was surprised because I was talking about my relationships with my sister on Zoom once, and she was at my mom's house, and my mom got really upset because I was starting to talk about how it worked for us and how it was going, and and my mom got really upset and like told my sister that she had to go inside because she didn't want the neighbors to hear, because this isn't that kind of, like, I was like shocked. I was shocked. Yeah, because my mom's so forward thinking in so many different ways, and she brought me up to be so forward thinking in so many different ways. My mom was a feminist from the time that she taught me so many feminist ideologies without ever saying the word feminism, and without ever calling herself a feminist. Like, I didn't
just modeled it for you.
She did, yeah. And I didn't even hear the word feminist until I was away from home. I was like, oh my God, I was raised by a total fucking feminist that didn't think that gay people were natural. Like, it wasn't a natural thing, which, yeah, I don't know where that lands now. We just don't talk about it.
I mean, I don't ever specifically remember being told like explicit negative things, but it's the modeling that is very important. And when you go to a church and the only thing that is ever modeled for you is straight white monogamous couples, and you just are programmed into like, well, this is Wisconsin and this is Baraboo and this is what we have, like you get this very narrow viewpoint of what you think of as the norm. And when you exist outside that norm, you're kind of on your own. And when so much of church can at times just be a social club,
which in church is like those are some of the worst fucking people. Like, your priests touch little boys. This will come up in every podcast.
Wow, she's coming in hot, everybody.
Your fucking priests touch little boys. How fucked up is that? Like, that's fucked up. That is dirty. That is awful. That is fucking evil. You do not touch little kids in a sexual way. That's fucked up. Gay people are just gay. They just want to fuck whatever, say whatever. Who fucking cares? If it's consensual, who cares? I don't care. Do whatever the fuck you want. You touch a little kid, you should have your eyes gouged out.
Wow. All right.
Like,
now let's get into that, because I want to we're following a tangent away from monogamy and non-monogamy.
Yes,
and that's fine. That's okay.
Because a lot of people call it evil. It's totally intertwined.
That's right.
People are like, that's evil. You shouldn't do that. That's the devil's work. You want to fuck other people. That's not my wife. And that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, well, I think that there could be some hot debate about like what that's really harmful to, because like honestly, like if I want to love 15 different people, but I'm not harming anybody and I'm not harming you,
right?
You can shut the fuck up about it, right? But like, so let's talk.
Hold on, I gotta close my windows here.
All right, let's let Vanessa do this, and I think that I'm going to introduce a particular topic here. So
okay.
So we know that homosexuality is a sexual orientation, and at one point in time, it was considered evil and a psychological disorder.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we look at pedophilia as evil and a disorder. And some people are beginning to ask the question of like, why isn't pedophilia a sexual orientation? Now, for me, when I think about that particular topic,
who the fuck says that?
It was put in an article a few years ago that I saw. It was some European, but but anyways,
like it's just a new sexual orientation. We're gonna try and make it okay.
Exactly, but I think what it really comes down to, and is the power of consent, because between two adults that understand consent, they're enjoying this together, but a child cannot consent because they do not understand what is going on. So therefore it can't be an orientation because they can't make a decision. Because I think ultimately one of the key aspects of like us as sexual beings is we become sexually active as we enter adulthood. We go through puberty and like these things. Well,
there are some kids that
like, I mean, you can feel things, but like, like there's
they don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, there's exploration, but there's also like, there's levels.
Relationships, right?
Yeah,
sexual relationships.
It is connected to a rite of passage into an adulthood. Like part of that rite of passage into adulthood is being able to consent to who can touch you.
Right. And that should be fucking sacred.
Exactly.
That should be so sacred. And it's often not. Way more.
And look, Jackie said it in like, let's see, 5 words, and I took about 500 to get that out. But that's the beauty of the Tragedy+Time podcast, live stream show, whatever the fuck we call this. But I do think that like having sexuality introduced in a very positive way, and having
in an educational way too, not in some weird situation that somebody puts them in.
To be educated about it, but like also like if your parents don't have any friends who are gay, you will think that they're not being accepted, and then you will think, well, there must be something wrong with them. I mean, like these little jumping to conclusions or like these narrow viewpoints, like
even just subconscious connections. Like you've never been in a situation where you've seen a gay couple together. So therefore, how can you be comfortable with it if nobody's ever introduced that experience to you before? Like if you have never ever encountered a Black person in your life, and then you're suddenly in the room with a Black person and you've never been around Black people before, like that's going to freak a person out because they don't know how to behave. Right. And if they've been on top of that, taught that that's not right, that's not okay, that's not whatever. It's just, the fucking, the goddamn church, they fucking ruined so much.
Well, that's where we're getting into kind of like the subtleties of systematic oppression, but also systematic just like indoctrination, or like what is normalized for you as a child. That's why it's that much more important, like as a parent, to have diverse relationships and present them to your children so that they understand people are people, and people can do whatever the fuck people want to do.
And sometimes people are really cool, doesn't matter, they could be any color, size, shape, sexuality, blah 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 blah. Or they could be assholes. Try to stay away from the assholes.
Right. So like exactly. But to bring it kind of back to this thing is this element of, for so long, the status quo has been monogamous relationships, a mom and a dad, and then like they're raising the kids in the family home, and like they like maybe they both stepping out, but to the kids they see mom and dad monogamous, that sort of thing. But I think with the rise of like essentially divorce or just people not getting married,
I know very few people who have parents that are together.
Right. And like this idea of like, co-parenting becoming more of a norm is opening the idea of like, well, what really is a relationship, and what needs to be a relationship, and what is normalized, and how do people like connect, and what's
right. And there's so many different terms for different relationships, right? So you can co-parent with somebody, and then you can have like an active sexual loving relationship with somebody else. And then you can also have just like an intimate sort of partnership where you're all raising kids together that isn't sexual. Like there's so many different families that are forming now. It's really cool.
It is really cool, but that's also, I mean, if you speak to some, like I'm related to some light speed conservative Christians who live in rural areas, and they, they'll say this stuff like, "This is a threat to our," and like, I'm always puzzled. I'm like, how is this a threat?
How is this a threat to you? Happiness, people actually working together to raise healthy, emotional children who understand diverse ways of living. Yeah. No, it's a threat to their indoctrination. It's a threat to what they have grown to cling to and understand. But it's also what they were taught, and very well could have gotten beaten into them too, right?
Right. Yes, any number of different ways. So that brings us back to this aspect of like, a lot of people are indoctrinated into the idea of monogamy, and then when you get to a position, because like, I've gone on like different message boards or like, online like communities and interacted with people who are poly or non-monogamous, and I've asked them like, how did you introduce this into your marriage? Because some people stay together, some people like become non-monogamous after divorce. Sometimes like it's the thing that saves the marriage. It's there's all these different stories, but by and large, they all had to introduce the idea and go through this kind of rough growth period. Like when you said that you had all the conversation about it, like how long was the conversation?
We
what
literally
did those things look like? Yeah. Like,
okay,
what
so
was that like?
it was long. It was very long. It took me developing a huge crush on somebody.
And did you know about your sexuality before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And from the beginning with Brian, I was like, I don't know that I will be able to commit to only you for the rest of my life. I would love to get old with you. I would love to grow old with you.
That's a nice sentiment.
I just don't know that I would be able to be completely sexually committed to you for the rest of my life. And he's like, okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So cut to like, I don't know, fucking 7 years later, 8 years later, it was a long time later. It didn't even come up, not even once. And then, I developed a huge crush on somebody. And then it was like, okay, maybe we should start talking about this. We've come to the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We've arrived at the bridge. Let's pay the toll and start. So I didn't like skip off and be like, well, I told you that time, remember? Bye. Like it was sit down. Let's have some conversations. What do you think about this? Let me get some books. Cause that's that's what I do. I also need all that information because I want to be able to navigate it. Well, I don't want to lose this person who is amazing in my life, but I also have these other things that are going on in my head and my heart and my body that are really loud. Right? So it was like a year of talking through stuff, like and just step by step. And I'm super, super slow moving, and so is he. Not relationally, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Not in life. Like I'm very fast mover. I mean,
and would you say that you're a slow mover relationally? Like perhaps you. Let me step back because I was beginning to project. Let me say for myself, I can feel love and affection for someone, but now because of the things that I have gone through, the word love is so non-specific and is so frustrating for me because people use it in so many different ways. Like I can have strong affection for someone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my attachment is growing at the same rate, because attachment has often resulted in a lot of pain for me.
Yeah.
So do you have any of that? Is that a factor in like the slow movingness on maybe an attachment aspect, or is it just slow moving because that's kind of who you are?
I'm very selective. Let's just say that. Like there's not very many people that I find super attractive, that I'm super attracted to. You know what I mean? Like that I like feel mentally, emotionally, and physically attracted to. And I kind of want to hit all those things.
Yeah, you kind of need to hit all those things. I mean, like from what I know of you, like as a
right,
like
yeah, because otherwise I don't even want to talk to you.
So like if I had to eulogize you, I would be like, Vanessa is one of the people who like she walks into a room, but she, as a whole person, as an entity, is in the room because everything about her is interconnected. Like, because like what you're mentally, what you're spiritually, who you are physically, it all kind of comes together, and people are going to see who you are.
Some people really like it. Some people are terrified.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And so I'm often looking for that person that hits all those things for me. So if those things aren't all hit, like, sure, I'll have a wonderful friendship with you. Sure, I'll have a wonderful, we can have whatever relationship, but I'm probably not going to have sex with you. Like it. And I'm very slow to jump into bed, except for that one time, and I jumped right into bed. And then it worked out for 5 years. So I don't know. Maybe it just has to be magic.
Well, I mean, like, isn't that like that's...
And like things moved really fast with Brian too. Like when Brian and I got together, it was like we're just like bada bing, bada boom. I like you, you like me. Let's hang out. Okay. 2 weeks later, I love you. Ha! You said it first. Like it.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the interesting aspect of the term magic, right? We use that term when we can't explain what the indescribable is. Like, there's what that term, like any technology that is sufficiently advanced for the people using it and they can't understand it. It's like magic. Like what may have happened there? There might be like some sort of beta alpha brainwave energy connection that. Right. Maybe in the year 3000, we have a spectrometer that can measure this, and they'll be like, yes, you two are so compatible on this wavelength that it'll just make a total match, and this is the explanation for it. But we don't know what that is.
Right. So so that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is. It's definitely got to be some biological something, because there's also like scent involved and just overall feeling. Like Brian, he started... I was working at the Willie Street Co-op, and he would come to my line because he had a crush on me. I didn't know this, but I was like, "Well, what was the thing?" And he was like, "It was your energy. I was attracted to your energy more than anything." And I was like, "Oh."
He heard you laugh.
Yeah.
Probably. Like, and he just went.
Yep.
Yeah. There it is, and you just oriented on.
Yeah. Well, he has a thing for big, powerful ladies that are loud.
That's good. Now, but there is a lot that goes into these things, right? So, like, I kind of forget where. Like,
well, I think that's why it's so hard for people to find partners too, because they're so the non-monogamy thing. So yes, like. We check each other's like so many boxes, but again, he doesn't have boobs.
All right, now
he's not gonna lay down and cry with me for 4 hours.
Just 3.
Did you hear him? Yes, I will. Okay, yes, you will. You will lay down with me. Not for 4 hours though. You'll lay down with me for a good half an hour and let me cry it out.
Now, I do want to bring up one thing, because like you had a conversation. It took like a year to like really introduce it at the pace that was most healthy and most successful for you.
Right. To ease it in.
Now, really, everyone should ease it in.
Depends on the situation.
I guess
you might not. You might want it to just.
We're gonna just gloss right over that point. I do want to bring up this thing, the aspect of like what happens when there is fear, because fear is a strong motivator that humans react to. You're going to hear. I'm going to talk about it like ad nauseum on this show, like in this episode, every episode ever after this.
It's debilitating.
So, I think that there can be like two people who are reasonably well matched, and maybe one of the person's like, well, I would like to open this because it's going to be good for me, and I want to do these things. But at some point in time, fear will step in. So like, I remember having a conversation with my ex-wife because like things weren't working the way that I was hoping that they would work. And I said, well, I would like to step out, but I want to do this. Like, is this okay? And she was very, very honest with me, and I appreciated it. And I agreed with her at the time totally, because she said, well, I'm afraid that you will fall in love with them. And at that point in time, our definition of love was very limited. It was like, it's attachment, and it's this, and it was this loop back to the zeros, the loop back to the zero sum game, in the aspect of like, if I loved someone else, that she would lose that love.
Right.
And the idea that like, oh, I could love both people, and that could be a-okay. But I didn't know what that was, and I didn't know how to explain it then either. Right. Like I was a child. I was 30, but like I was not.
Yeah, that's a child. No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, for a man, it's definitely a child. But like, and for humans in general, I mean, I think there's a lot of that. Like, I mean, we're kind of looping back.
That's when you're just starting to put it all together. I think, I think that's when you're at the beginning of really starting to put it together, like all the pieces that have sort of formed you, and now like it's completely on you. Like over 30, you really can't. I feel, this is my own personal opinion, you have your own, but I feel like you can't blame your parents anymore past 30. Like you've had up until 30, unless something has totally prevented you from getting to work through that, whatever your parents did to you. Maybe it was really fucking bad. But I feel like at that point, you got to take accountability for your own actions and your own behavior completely.
I think that that's a very interesting point. I don't know if I would put it as strongly as you did.
Sure.
I think I would say something more along the lines of like, our parents can be the cause of any number of problems, but so can anybody else. Especially like especially when we're
forming, or relationships even. Yeah, you can blame a relationship for the rest of your life.
Right. When we're forming who we are, but at some point in time, as things have progressed, and like maybe you get some separation from the source of the pain, or the source of just whatever wasn't like, the person wasn't giving you their best.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it doesn't mean that they're not still the catalyst of that pain, or of your different type of coping mechanisms, or like bad habits, that sort of stuff. I have these sort of things too from like my upbringing, but it is definitely not something that I want to just continue to sit in and be like, I'm this way because this is the way I was raised, and until mom says that she's sorry for that, I'm not gonna like try to find the next step. Like, I think that we as humans owe it to ourselves to
take control,
fix whatever we can fix. And control is a spectrum. Like, we very rarely have complete control, but we very rarely have no control.
But you have control over your own behavior for the most part, unless you have like tics. Or
you're like in a highly abusive like situation where like somebody is just completely
Right. Oh God, all the variables about everything. I'm so sorry if I hurt anybody or said anything problematic. Some of us have allergies we can't control either. But no, I mean, like, like I feel like basically, if you're not willing to work on yourself, you can't blame everybody else for your problems.
Oh yeah, like I definitely. We've all met the person who nothing's ever their fault.
Oh yeah.
I can't do anything with them. I can't be friends with them. Like there's it's hard to build any sort of like longer term relationship when they can't take responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, we do have to take responsibility for our actions, but
for your own behavior, you have to. That is the only thing in this world that you can control. Like, you can't, like, except for those variables.
Like, at some point, we also take. I think we also take responsibility for things that are outside of us just because we have to. It may not be fair.
That's part of the indoctrination too, though. The guilt. Mm-hmm. The guilt. Yeah. The guilt. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, I think like that's a whole that's a series podcast.
Yeah,
of, like how to speak passive aggressive, because
Oh yeah. Or
I
the guilt
learned.
I
I
carry.
learned. Yeah, the guilt. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Well, so what really like what's the funny part?
What's
What's
the
the
funny
part that
part?
that you laugh about with like non-monogamy versus monogamy? Like, you know, like I think at some point in time we do have to like kind of like laugh at some of the stuff that we were doing because like when I look back at some of the
Oh, here's a
things.
very funny part, actually.
Okay.
My son, so my youngest son at the time, he was like 10 when we first told him that I had the girlfriend. And he had the most questions. He was the most open to talk about it, and he had the most questions. And I was just very, very open with him or whatever. He's like, so you love Brian? Yes. So do you love your girlfriend? And I'm like, yes. So are you guys going to sleep in the same bed together? No. Okay, because that would be weird.
Yeah.
And he was like, that would just be weird if like you were like here and like you're like snuggling one on this arm and then snuggling one on this arm and then you're just like, hey, I love you. Mwah. Hey, I love you.
Like,
And I'm like, that might be weird for us, but some people that's okay.
he's already getting into like the Lego building aspect of like how are they all gonna fit together in this
Right.
one,
He was
like,
trying to problem solve it. Like we're not problem solve it, but just like he was trying to structure it and figure it out.
well, I mean, and also in his defense, like, I mean, like beds are only so big, and like Brian's very tall, and you are very tall as well.
Right.
I mean, like,
where's the dog gonna go?
Like, yeah, exactly. What, like, yes, there's a dog. There's probably a cat that probably wanders in there sometimes. Yeah, like, I mean, there's only so much room underneath the covers. I mean, are you gonna like? Do you have a bunk bed situation?
Right. Right. Yeah. How does that go?
But I definitely think that there's elements where we have to just kind of like sit back and laugh about what our hangups are, because like we as humans and as Americans, I think specifically, like it seems like we have a lot of fucking hangups that we have to spend a lot of time deprogramming later on. It's like, Jesus Christ, it's one thing after another.
It is. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to reprogram, and I think, yeah, the kids are helping. Those kids are helping us grow and open our minds, and yeah, it's good. It's good. I think love who you love, and if you want to just fuck who you want to fuck. Be safe, be consensual.
Yeah,
like have fun. Have fun. It should be fun.
Yes, it should definitely be fun. Frequent, like we covered in the last episode, like Dave said.
Right.
I want you to have as much vagina or pussy and dick and cock and balls and like and every other word that
whatever you want,
as much as you want, to the limit of what you want.
Right. I want you to have as many cookies as you can stomach.
Yes, and like and not go into a diabetic coma.
Right. Exactly.
That would be ideal. So, like, do you have any advice? Is the thing like for people? Because, like, I think there are a lot of people that struggle.
Yeah, and it's not any easier. It's not any easier. I think.
Like, I know that when I was like really true blue into my Christian beliefs, and I was just like, and the marriage was not the way that I thought it was going to be, and I just told myself, like, well, I'm just going to die miserable, and that's okay. I'm cool with it.
Right.
I like the misery I can just get acclimated to, but like the asking someone to have a slight change so that we can have like something positive, that's terrifying, and I can't do it. But I can live a life of misery, which when you say that out loud, that's fucking ludicrous,
right?
Like you know. And how do you get people from point A to point B?
Well, it's I have this theory, and I've had it for a few years now, and it applies to everything in life. It's choosing your pain. There will so I'm a pessimist. There's always going to be pain. There will always be pain in your life. You're never going to escape pain. At some point in your life, you're going to experience pain, emotional, physical, whatever. Choose your pain. So
Like you're
Do you
talking like
want
a
the
spanking
pain?
versus like a paddle. Like
Yeah.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
back onto it. Just had to interject that.
Um,
You got to choose your pain.
choose your pain. Like, do you want a whip or do you want no? But it's like, so do you want to be in a relationship and maintain that comfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have this monogamous comfort where everybody's comfortable, you know the routine, but it's boring. You're arguing. But it's fine, but you're not happy and you're not fulfilled and you're not getting what you need necessarily, right? You're getting some of what you need, but not everything. Are you going to choose that pain or are you going to choose the pain of like talking it out with your partner, trying to figure it out? If it doesn't work out, are you willing to break up and move on? Are you willing to do something within the relationship? Are you going to go through those motions and those have those conversations and actually get to a place where you're both comfortable exploring this and exploring it in a comfortable way? It's a lot of work, so either way it's a lot of work and a lot of pain. You're going to find it.
Well, I think we also have these like pains that are in our mind.
Oh, absolutely.
That like
Yeah.
May not be true. Like
Yeah.
like the pain of the unknown. Like, well, if I step out of this, I could end up completely alone and ostracized from my family because like I knew right away that unless there was basically a miracle, that my marriage probably wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And I prayed for that miracle for a really long time because that's what I thought. I honest to God, legitimately prayed for a miracle.
Yeah. Because that's what you were told you were supposed to do, and you were there.
Right.
But it wasn't working.
But like one of the reasons I prayed for that miracle wasn't just because I wanted it. One of the reasons I prayed for that miracle was because I was terrified that should I try to pursue the options that are available to me, like divorce was an available option, but the cost of that divorce at one point in time in my life would have been losing my family, what I perceived to be my relationship with my siblings and my parents, because I thought that they would not accept it. And
right.
some of that played out like that. Like, my relationship with my mom in some ways has never been the same. In some ways. And then, God damn it, I loved her family. I loved her. Yeah. I loved her.
Yeah.
All right. Like I honest to God, and I will love her till the day I die. Like she is the mother of my child, and like she was my best friend.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted something that was very difficult. It was not her fault. It wasn't really mine either, but it was difficult to put in place. And, the fear of, well, I'm going to lose my best friend. I'm going to lose her family. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose all of these things if I just introduce a topic and then they go ballistic and shoot it down and say, I can't believe what you're doing. And then they tell everybody, like, like, I think that even to just open up that type of conversation, you need a lot of trust.
Yes.
Which, not, like completely unironically, trust and honesty is seemingly, like everyone that I've talked to about non-monogamy, is the basis of it functionally working, is being like radical honesty, brutal honesty, complete honesty, like all the different words that they tack on front of honesty, like we're gonna make it sound good or bad or it's scary. It's like, no, it's not scary. It's just someone's going to tell you what they think.
Yeah.
You can handle it.
Or how they're feeling. Or I'd rather know and have everything on the table so I can at least look at everything on the table and make my own decisions and my own choices. right? Like when you cheat on somebody, you take those options away.
Yeah.
You know, and then it just sucks, and it's just yucky and ugly and yucky. And more yucky.
Yeah. And like I'll say this one thing, and we're going way over time, but I do want to bring up this one other detail if you got time. I don't know if you have the time, but like,
yeah.
Like 5 more minutes. In my second relationship, after the first instance of cheating, I brought up, is like, well, do you want to open the relationship? Because like, if you want to open the relationship, then like it's going to be open for both of us.
Yeah.
Because like I think I knew I wanted it to be open, and I think it could have maybe worked. But like, I also didn't just have the balls to say I want to have an open relationship.
Right.
I was just like, well, if you're going to make it open, then I get to be open too. And it's just like, well, I'm going to like, you get to be the bad guy, but like, I'm just going to agree with it. And like, I didn't take like a spirit of cooperativeness. I was just like,
oh, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Well, like, yeah, like I can aid and abet the crime, but I'm not, like, or whatever it's going to be. But like, the feeling that I got, and I can't say that this is what she said, because like honestly it's years ago, but like the feeling, and like, these are kind of interesting, but like the feeling that I got was that she kind of would have been all right if she could step out, but she didn't want me to step out. Like she wanted all of my attention.
Right. Yeah.
But like,
and that is often the case. Yeah.
Attention's a fun and interesting aspect, and I have a lot of feelings on that, and that's like a whole nother podcast. Tyson's feelings about attention, like, and my lack or overabundance thereof.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Both at the same time.
I'm not paying attention to you right now doesn't mean I don't care about you.
Yeah, exactly. And just because I can't pay attention to this thing doesn't mean that I don't have the ability to have a lot of attention. It's just geared towards. Well, I think a lot about
speaking about that really quickly, just like when you are in multiple relationships, you have to, depending on the dynamic of it, of course, but if you have an intense, personal, intimate relationship with somebody and that's how it goes, and they're used to that, and you decide to open up, you still have to kind of maintain that same amount of attention and everything else. Plus the new person. Right? Because unless it's gotten to a point in your relationship where it's like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I'd rather go read my book anyway. Like, go have fun with your new friend. There's still work to be done. You can't just like, oh, we're set for life. We're good forever. So I'm going to go fuck off and not pay attention to you or give you any of the things that you need. That doesn't work either.
It doesn't work in any relationship, whether it's an intimate one, like between, significant others. It doesn't work.
Or even friends.
With your friends. It doesn't work with your friends.
Yeah.
Like, Will, one of my closest friends, and he is that way because throughout our friendship, I've been able to say things completely honest and say like, dude, I have a hard time with like you replying to things, and like, if you can just continue reaching out, like if I haven't replied back, like it's not because I'm not interested, it's just it fell off my radar. And like, he's so diligent about like, he'll send me a message, and if I don't reply back, it's become a game. We're like, he'll just send a message like 2 days later that just says or like. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I needed to reply to him, but like I cherish that aspect about him because like he's learned to kind of work with who I am.
Yeah, he doesn't take it personally.
And he doesn't take it personally. Like he doesn't take the fact that I didn't respond in a timely manner as like I'm not interested in him as a person.
Right.
He just knows that Tyson has Tyson things.
Right.
Yeah. So like,
and that's good, being able to communicate that with somebody and being able to be like, okay, this is where I'm at in myself right now. This is where I'm at. Do what you will with that, but like, a person who really cares about you is going to take into those things into consideration, right? And they're going to hopefully cooperate with
right.
that, like Phil does.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
We'll close out this. Is being non-monogamous just some crazy liberal hippie shit?
Right now it is.
Yeah, because like the only people I see doing it, and I kind of think they're like, that's pretty happy. I like it, like, but I'm also pretty liberal, so like.
Well, and it's not like it hasn't been going on for years and years and years. I know these old, crazy liberal hippies that were doing it a long time ago, just quieter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, speaking from the old crazy, or well, getting older and crazy liberals, because like we are.
I know.
This has been the Tragedy+Time podcast, and we're going to officially endorse on this podcast that people should just fuck as much as they want to, but as long as they're honest.
Yeah, and it's consensual.
Be
or
an
as little as
honest
you
fucker.
want to. Some people aren't into fucking too much.
All right. As always, it's been great to have you on the show, Vanessa. We're gonna have you on a bunch more times.
Thanks.
Can't wait for the next time we get to sit down and talk. And
Yeah,
everybody out there,
thanks for watching.
It's usually be Thursdays. Click like or share or all of that sort of social media bullshit that grows the audience, because I need validation. All right.
I don't as much, but I appreciate it greatly. I'm on the Facebooks and I'm on the Instagrams, and I'm kind of starting we'll see. TikTok there's 3 videos right now. I'm mostly just scrolling.
Mostly just scrolling. That's like, I think that's the name of my eventual band if I ever get in one.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thanks everybody.
All right. Bye.
Good night.